We're going to switch gears and we're going to turn to another top story. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani is reflecting on his first 100 days in office. Now, here's some of what Mayor Mamdani told Gayle King and Vladimir Duthiers, sitting right next to me, about his time in office on CBS Mornings.
How do you think you're doing in your first 100 days?
You know, I'll always leave it to New Yorkers to give me the grade, but I will say that I'm proud of what a team has accomplished over the 100 days. I mean, we saw $1.2 billion secured in a partnership with Governor Hochul to deliver universal child care in our city. We held bad landlords accountable for $32 million, fixed 6,070 apartments. We filled 102,000 potholes, and we did all of this while also returning $9.3 million back to workers and small businesses that have been ripped off by mega corporations.
I want to bring in Christina Greer. She's an associate professor of political science at Fordham University. Christina, thank you so much for being here. I mean, we always say, oh, what has someone done in the first 100 days? It's not really a long time, to be fair, but it is also a good metric because so many of these candidates say, I'm going to get this done immediately, right, on day one. So you heard a little bit of what the mayor was saying, you know, about touting his first 100 days. What would you say are some of the biggest accomplishments?
I would agree with the mayor for sure. I mean, the first 100 days is an arbitrary number that we have somehow decided as political scientists that, you know, that's how we measure folks. But, you know, the mayor is establishing, as he said, a team. And what I really am excited about is that the team is a mixture of veteran politicos and public servants and also new and young people who have fresh ideas and different ways of thinking about the governing process. I think the mayor obviously has a steep learning curve. He comes from a short term in Albany, but he doesn't actually come from the city council or a citywide elected office. So he's learning how to negotiate with city council members, with the speaker of city council, Julie Menin, who's much more moderate to conservative compared to the mayor. But, you know, so many New Yorkers are like yearning for government to do something. They want it to feel as though their public servants are actually working for them. So when, you know, we have this pothole politics of a mayor, I mean, I sort of try and explain it to my students in the way of something that happens to you short term actually does have long-term effects. There's so many New Yorkers that actually still do drive, and potholes can cost you a lot of money in the long term. So the minor things that he's doing are actually making New Yorkers' lives better in the long run, for sure.
Yeah, I know one of the things that he's recently talked about is removing all the scaffolds that we have in New York City, which is, again, a small thing, but it is an ugly, ugly blight on the face of this city, and I know that he's positioned himself to do that. But I want to ask you, the other way that he's positioned himself is as a democratic socialist. And I wonder, what is striking to me about that label is there was a sense, there were 1,000,001 think pieces that were written after his victory. Look, this is the future of the Democratic Party. This is where they need to be if they're going to win over voters. But I argue, and maybe I'm wrong, I'm not a political scientist, but I argue that New York City is very different than rural Iowa. And if you think that the American electorate writ large, nationwide or even statewide, is on the far left, I would probably argue that the polling hasn't shown that to be true, nor is it far right. I mean, it strikes me that this is good for New York City if that's what the voters decide. But if you're going to go out there and try to position someone on a national level or a statewide level, I don't know if the Democratic Socialist label would work because many people still have negative connotations associated with it.
I absolutely agree with the negative connotations of the labeling. But, you know, we know in New York we have a myriad of shades of blue, which I always explain to folks. So, you know, we've got folks on the hard left, but we have many moderate to conservative Democratic New Yorkers. So I think what would make this mayor and subsequent Democratic Socialists effective on a larger scale across the country is to not get too caught up in labels. I mean, we've had socialism in this country at many different points in time. Oftentimes it's for the rich, but it's socialism nonetheless. But what he's doing is actually governance. Right? This low-hanging fruit that so many New Yorkers and Americans are yearning for. What are my tax dollars actually doing? What are these politicians who should be public servants, what are they doing for me? I think what helps New Yorkers right now is that the mayor is young and energetic. I pray that he does not burn out, but there is something about seeing someone who has an energy to literally walk through the streets of New York to see with his own eyes what could be improved upon. So I think a lot of folks want to hang on to the Democratic Socialist label. Obviously, the DSA has been bolstered bolstered by Mamdani's win, but there are a lot of the policy wins that he's had that actually go well beyond democratic socialism, and it's actually just what voters are clamoring for. So maybe if we focus on the policies and the actually productivity of the mayor and his team, then we can deal with the labels later on, because I think that just actually puts people in silos. And this mayor seems as though he's trying to find points of connection and commonality so that we can work toward making New York just safer and better for all New Yorkers, not just a small pop.
Oh, Professor, I think it's well taken that, not focusing on the labels, right? There's negative connotations for some people about capitalism, about communism, right? And really getting down to the policies. But I do want to push you, because if we think about, let's not focus on the labels, but let's focus on the policies, let's focus on the results. It's not just going to be him walking around New York City with energy. It's going to be delivering on lower cost groceries, free groceries, the child care. And I'm a business, by training, economics by training, I always think about, okay, who's going to pay for that? What happens when your grocery store isn't making money or isn't serving that nutritious food? Because to your point, if that is not something that is successful, then that is what people are going to take away from a policy perspective. How do you think he can address that challenge so people do focus on the policy?
Absolutely. I mean, and he's looking down a $5.4 billion deficit, and the governor's already given him close to $2 billion to help out. And so the rubber will hit the road. Absolutely. I think the mayor and his team are trying to come up with creative ways to get the donor class to pay a little bit more, not just beyond the millionaire's pied-à-terre tax that he and Kathy Hochul are working on. But to your point, I think the first 100 days is, yes, it has been exciting to see pothole politics and fixing basketball courts and picking up trash. But 6 months in, New Yorkers want to know, if you can't actually get more buses because you have to go through Albany to do so, are you going to make the buses that exist faster? And are you going to try and expand bus lines and bus routes the best you can? Are you going to be able to build affordable housing? We know that when the mayor has gone to Washington, D.C., he shocked many Democrats and Republicans by having such a productive conversation with the president, by trying to keep him focused on New York and public housing. So I think in the next 6 months, we'll have a very different conversation as to what is real, a real productive sort of policy manifesto that he's put out for New Yorkers.
Well, Professor Christina Greer, I look forward to that conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Professor.